Mani as well are here to help us have that conversation. Karibuni tena sana. As usual, like that chain, sijui kama maluneishi unekangwa ngeta, lakini kwetu ukikuja na hiyo urudi nayo home.
Sitakuja.
Utakuja? Na unaweza kuja tu ni venye utatoa. Uiache kwa gari
kwa sababu sitaki kuiacha, kwa hivyo sitakuja.
Utakuja?
Utakuja kwetu.
Just because of a chain.
Si umesema. Unajua kisha declare
then if you cannot come to our village, I will bring my village to you.
Exactly.
But karibu tena sana.
Asante.
Dr. Jane, good morning.
Yes, me. Good morning.
I saw you in the morning when you were going to Kameme FM.
Yes.
And I was like, I like this outfit today.
Thank you.
You have taken me back to the days when I used to look at my teachers. You literally reminded me of a teacher. But she was a Mrs. I think Otieno or some, but alikuwa na dress kama wewe.
You know what? Mashujaa Day, I hit 50 plus, 50 something.
Did you now?
Yes, so
No.
52.
That is how old you are, Mama. What are you trying
Yeah.
to say? No.
On
You're not like
Mashujaa
38?
Day. I wish I was, but praise God for 52.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yes.
actually the truth. So at times I go to our fashions of our days. Yes.
Nice, good stuff.
Yes,
boundaries. Let's start with you, because when
Yes.
people hear boundaries, they first of all think, oh, it is because I have something to hide. That is why I have boundaries. That's why I have a password on my phone, for example, because I don't want my wife to find out that I am chatting another woman. Or I don't want her to see my M-Pesa statements because akiona ile pesa inakuanga hapa, atashtuka.
Yeah.
But is it because we have something to hide?
At times it's because we have something to protect, not to hide. And it depends on the relationship wherein you are. There are women who will want to protect pesa za chama because they know the moment the husband sees the money, he will insist on taking it and it will all end in the alcohol den.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
So at times, there would be a boundary with that phone for that day, because perhaps it was sent by M-Pesa, because she wants to send it to the child's school.
Yes.
And she knows if this money is taken the wrong way, toto atafukuzwa shule. So what happens, such cases and such scenarios, you may discover their boundaries perhaps in the financial sector because one of them is a misuser.
Okay.
Or one has a vision, the other has no vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Julius, let me ask your opinion in this one, because a lot of women, and we have seen it here every time we are having a discussion on relationship, that, oh, bwana yangu, atakangera nikijua, anatengeneza pesa ngapi kama mshahara, oh, bwana yangu, hata sijui, anakujanga anaingia kwa bedroom, alafu anashinda kwa simu yake, oh, bwana yangu, you know, it's all about, bwana yangu akona boundaries, you know, I mean, or rather, ameficha vitu kwa simu yake, computer yake ikona password, I don't even know the logins and so on and so forth. What would you say about that?
I would start by saying that boundaries are important in any relationship. And when we talk about boundaries, we are talking about something that puts a demarcation. If you don't have boundaries within relationship, it's like a house without a fence. Anybody can enter into that place, anybody can walk out with anything, and therefore boundaries are important. But you also need to check on what need not to have boundaries. Because if you are having an issue where you're putting boundaries on your phone, that you don't want your wife or your husband to check on your phone, then there must be something that you are hiding in that place. You are either protecting her or illegally, or you're protecting her in the right way. For example,
yes,
there are people, as she has said, there are people who, when they see money, they are like, it is time to spend.
Okay.
So you realize I would rather put a boundary or a password to my M-Pesa statement because it will always provoke this person to think that money is just for spending.
Right.
And probably you want to save for the future. So that could be a healthy boundary. There could be a boundary, you know, that probably when this person, you know, there are people who work in sectors, like we've had these complaints a lot, especially wale watu wanafanya na kazi na Nduthi, ama Uber.
Yes.
Maybe they have several clients. It's a man and he has several ladies that have purpose that every morning you're going to pick me up.
Okay.
And so he knows the nature of his wife. Hata kimwambia, this is a lady that I carry every morning, she begins to complain. Maybe you're having a relationship, you're having this. So to avoid, because there are some ladies who will pick up a phone and actually begin calling customers. Wewe ni nani? Kwa mzee wangu.
Wewe unashinda ukimpigia asubuhi 6 a.m.
Unampigia 6 a.m. Na labda ameelezwa, but she wants to do a deeper investigation.
Follow up, yeah.
So you may find that boundary may be healthy, where you probably have to put your password for the sake of preventing yourself from losing that job. Secondly, from having customers who are not happy. Because there are people, and even there are men who are like that,
Yes.
who can make a call list and say, but usually it is some women who may have issues with that. So,
Yes.
boundaries,
Yes.
I would say they're important, but it depends on what kind of a boundary that you are putting. There are some unhealthy ones.
We'll talk about the kind of boundary, because I can choose not to have a password on my phone, Dr. Jane.
Yeah.
And I can choose to leave it every day open.
Yeah.
Even when I'm asleep,
Yeah.
I can choose to leave it open. But
Yeah.
there are some nosy women, and even husbands. Let me not whatever one gender, but there are those women who will come, umelala, anajaribu kutafuta ni kidole gani inafunguanga isimu, anajaribu kwa zote, anaenda kwa hii ya mkono, mpaka inafika mahali anaanza kujaribu za mguu. If it gets to a point like that, surely, then that means, is there a problem with the man who has got that password, or is it the woman who's not trusting the man?
You know, I say something, Mbuvi.
Yes.
For marriage to have absolute trust, why should the phone have passwords? Number one, that's a question I don't. My phone has no password.
Okay.
And by the way, it charges in the sitting room. And I tend to believe sometimes anxiety is created by boundaries we try to create to prove ourselves gisty. And especially that's a problem, I'm not, of 90% of men. 90% of men believe the phone is their own private agenda.
Yes.
And that's why somebody will call and they'll go somewhere far
Right.
to answer calls. What do they set? They set fear, anxiety. And if you really don't care, you're like, that one, amechukua zake on his own way. And you found so many of such cases that come for counseling where you find this man will never have a conversation where the wife is because he's doing things that he doesn't want the wife to know.
Okay.
And so what happens? It sets a wrong precedence in your marriage. There's no more trust. There's no more joy. Things are being done your way, then the wife also begins to do their way. So I believe if most of these boundaries can be removed, it can make marriages mutually inclusive.
Right.
It is like two eggs that have been beaten to make an omelette. But when you set too many boundaries, it's like trying to bite an omelette, but you can feel, hey, apple, that's a shell.
Yeah.
There's a shell in between. You'll not enjoy it.
Sometimes, Daktari, when we are having discussions about our show, about K24 this morning, sometimes those conversations can happen over the weekend when we are not at work.
Yeah.
And Jeff Moteo, Shiko Kaitani can even call me for an hour or two.
Yeah.
We're on the phone, tumeshinda hapa, you know? So if I have that conversation with my wife, she's trying to watch her favorite program, atakuwa zile za ai, na wewe hiyo simu usiende uongee uko bedroom, ama usiende uongee uko nje. So sometimes, if I'm receiving that long distance call or a call that I know that might take time,
Yeah.
I will walk outside. And there are some wives who might not even understand that, or even husbands who might not understand that. They see Shiko Kaitani is calling and ametoka nje. Sasa inakuwa zile za ni nini mnaongea na Shiko for 1 hour, hamungeongea on Friday mkiwa kazini, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So how do you deal with such a person?
Let me tell you, I agree, but I believe openness. You know, there's a challenge with most marriages, and I think that needs to be addressed. It's the issue of pride. Where somebody feels like, why should I account for you what I'm doing? Why should I account to you what I'm doing?
Right.
And that is a problem. You know, if you said, you know, if there was a question, answer the question. Either way, it's either the man or the woman. It sets a lot of issues straight.
Yes.
And it brings a lot of peace.
Dr. Julius.
Yes.
She said, if there's a question, if your wife asks you, "Who ni nani?" Fine, I will tell her, for instance, it's Rehab, my producer, who was called. Then the next question would be like, kwenye ni nini mmeongea for 1 hour? Like, we are planning the show.
Yeah.
Mbona hamukuongea on Friday or on Thursday? Ama mbona msiongee Monday? Si Monday utakuwa kazini. Mbona msiongee? So sometimes you find yourself as a man having to explain your every move. Is it fair really in a marriage whereby you have to explain to people all the time what you're doing?
I'll say this. The reason why you'll find questions is because of a level of insecurity. The insecurity in marriage is healthy, a little one, but too much is also unhealthy. Like, she deals with a lot of people. She
Especially
receives
men.
calls, she will be called by men. If I was to keep on asking, who was that man you're talking to? She will reach a place where she'll get irritated.
Yeah.
And that's the reality that you need to do. The question that somebody is asking can be coded in such a way where you can be able to feel insecurity, or you feel this person is asking out of care. And unfortunately, most of the times you find a question is not asked out of care, it is asked out of insecurity. And it becomes irritating.
Yeah.
But I would say it's very important, there are those boundaries, also work boundaries, where you can be able to tell your friends, for example, sometimes, and we break it sometimes,
Right.
we agree. Like there are times, you know, the business side of her would make her even receive calls at 8. And it reached a place
PM.
where we said, let us put a boundary. You can't receive these calls up to this level.
Okay.
Because it is not necessarily that you are talking to the wrong people, but it is now infringing on the time
Of your
the family. So you need to be very clear also to your friends. You tell them, for me, I don't receive the calls beyond this time.
Right.
Because I've realized maybe my wife or my husband gets irritated when I receive calls, and I don't want to explain many stories. So there are those things. Ukishaelewa, everybody understands their spouse.
Yes.
So deal with your spouse and put the boundaries with your friends, because you can have boundaries with your spouse and you can also have boundaries with your friends. Where you
Okay.
tell your friends, ikifika labda saa mbili, tafadhali simu nipigie. There are some people who will even call you when you're at bed at 8 or 7. You hear somebody has called you, and they know very well probably it's a Saturday and you're sleeping. So they have no respect for the boundaries of that marriage.
Yes.
But it is the responsibility of whoever receives the call to tell that person or whoever it is, tafadhali nipigiage simu kutoka saa 4
Yes.
kwa sababu saa hii ka weekend na kuaga hapa.
Okay. There are other boundaries as well. Even when, like what you've said, dealing with friends, you want to go out on a Saturday or on a Friday evening after, you know, a long week. You now want to unwind before curfew fika 11. You want to go and hang out with people, and there are some spouses who will not even allow you to have that that time. Like ni Friday ulitoka job, anajua vizuri sana kazi yako ilisha 5 na hujafika nyumbani by 8, inakuwa ni story sasa, you know. Let's take a call first of all from Joshua in Kirinyaga. Joshua, very good morning to you. How are you doing?
Morning, Mbuvi.
Mimi niko salama sana, labda wewe?
Yeah, nashukuru Mungu. I'm enjoying the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Now, Mbuvi, allow me to say this. Now, I think the biggest and the greatest relationship and marriage breaker
Yes.
is actually a lack of emotional and intelligence maturity.
Yes.
Because, Mbuvi, you see, every human being has some stuff about them that they would like the world to know about.
Yes.
They also have stuff that they would like very close friends and relatives to know about. And they have stuff that they only want anybody except God to know about, okay?
Okay.
It doesn't always have to be that I'm keeping my boundaries because I'm cheating on you, or there's something I'm doing that probably isn't good for our relationship.
Yes.
There are some things that I just don't want people to know about, okay?
Yes.
And at the point when when I'm living with my wife or my spouse, it gets to a point that you really don't trust me.
Yeah.
That's an indication that our relationship is not working. Let people know that we shouldn't really believe so much in this hyped up belief that when we get married we become one. It is not true, Mbuvi. Even when we get married, Mbuvi, you still remain you and I still remain me. So let us respect these boundaries. Let us not forget that we have our own lives other than the life that we have decided to come together and build as a spouse.
Thank you.
That is my take, Mbuvi. Let us respect people's private decisions.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Keep calling and, of course, keep sending your WhatsApp messages. Speaking of which, here is one. I think boundaries are important because one thing that I know, if at all you want to have peace in your marriage, kindly keep off your husband's phone and your wife's phone, because to be sincere, some ladies are so nosy, hence can create lack of trust between spouses, which is very true. Actually, please warn the nosy ladies, please. Okay, all right. Do we have another one? There we go. K24, this is Austin Oba. Marriage is all about transparency and trust. For myself, my wife has the password for my phone and the PIN to my account, where she has the right to access at any time she feels. By that, we all trust for each other. Aya, Austin. Hey, mbako mepigwa makofi. Aya, Mili Kitale says, I am a gospel minister through music and was free with my man, but he became a hell. He would take my contact phone from the phone, rather, call, abuse, and even threaten them, given he is a police officer. Guy, delete some contacts from my phone. I had to put password that even my daughter doesn't know. I am sorry, though. Okay,
it's understandable.
Oh, yeah, Pole. Hi, K24. On boundaries in a relationship, I think there should be no boundaries. Phone passwords should be shared. This is Joe watching from Nakuru. All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Hey, okay, Kirinyaga, Joshua rather from Kirinyaga has said very clearly, let's have boundaries. We are not one as much as, we are told we are one. And we become our own individuals even after marriage, which is very true.
I agree.
Yeah.
Joshua, thank you so much for contribution. However, I would like to add something. Joshua has his own school of thought about marriage.
Yes.
For the many times that I have listened to him,
yes,
he has his own school of thought that he pursues very diligently. And everybody has a right to that. But now, looking at it this way, if you say you have something you didn't want your relatives, boundaries, yes, you can have boundaries to a certain extent. And I'm not saying that you become like a nylon paper to everybody.
Yes.
You cannot become a nylon paper to everybody. But there are necessary boundaries that we insist on that bring insecurity in relationships. Bring a lot of, and especially when the boundaries collapse. Because at times the walls collapse and you see over the other side.
Yeah.
This is what has been kept secret from me. And then you also begin to work on keeping secrets. Because sometimes some people take marriage as a revenge.
Okay.
Yeah, you are doing this biashara, it was so secret, the wall has collapsed, I have seen beyond. Then you start thinking, what else can I also do?
Yeah.
Because perhaps one party was very transparent and the other one has not been.
Yes.
It has put boundaries around what they're investing in.
Yeah.
And so what happens, at times it's insecurity, at times it is anger, and at times people observe it and say, the hypocrisy is not necessary. So what happens, even you now, you begin to build boundaries so it was not relevant.
Okay.
That marriage will hardly ever become one.
Okay. I want us to focus on what Joshua has said in regards to you're still an individual even after marriage, which is true. Friday ikifika mimi nataka kwenda ni meet my colleagues, tuchape story, waniambie pia industry iko aje. I'd like to meet my friends from other TV stations and other radio stations, so that I can also know if there are opportunities in the market that I should know about, and I cannot know such things through a WhatsApp group, for example. I need to be there physically with them, share a drink or two, and we get to talk about some of these issues. But their spouses wanasikianga sasa umeenda out, anafikiria sasa uko wapi, mpaka anakupigia simu after every 2 minutes, uko wapi? Unatoka saa ngapi? Ikifika kama ulikuwa unamwambia nitatoka 9, anakupigia 8:59. Unatoka? You're like, hey babe, kidogo 9:01 umeshatoka. 9:15. So uliniambia unatoka 9. Inafika 9:30 so hautoki. Boss, how are you going to survive?
No, what I usually say, to some extent, boundaries, I said, they are healthy. And we never lose our individuality by the fact that we are married. And I think also what Joshua needs to understand, there's a difference between being one and becoming one. Becoming is a process. That means every day you learn somebody and you gel together as you stay together. Unapataga, like now if you go to your mom, kuna vitu atakwambia, your father is like this. Hakuwa anajua wakianza, but as they live together, you get to know. So the thing is, we don't lose our identity because you have gotten into marriage. Also, we also need to change our mentality that marriage is not a prison. Because there are so many people who enter into marriage thinking now, I've entered into prison, so now I'm looking for any breakout.
Right.
But as you have said, there is a need to have a serious conversation, even as you go by, on some of the things that you'll allow in marriage.
Okay.
For example, there is your own time. There is what we call the me time. When you're having, what do you define by me time? It is that time you're saying that on Friday I will be with my buddies. And I can stay with them as long as I want, but even as I'm with them, there are boundaries I need to keep. Probably I will not relate. I will not start a pangwakando on the side.
Right.
That is still a boundary. So the thing is, we need as couples to sit down and agree on some few things, such that if your wife has a chama to go, you will allow her to go for that. But as well as she goes to that, there are boundaries you tell her you need to keep. Don't discuss me. Because there are some chamas that will discuss their men, their failures, the failures of their men, the
Dr.
way
Jane would know
want
that.
to. No, she does not even belong to a chama.
I don't
But
go
the
for
thing
any
is,
chamas.
Okay.
we are saying, discuss
By
some
choice.
of those things. And there are some boundaries you put because of what you have seen. Like you see that maybe you have your wife who by the time maybe 9 ikifika ameanza kupiga masimu kama 15, then instead of being so uncomfortable seated there up to 11 knowing that you receive those calls, then you'd rather be home maybe at 8:30 and be back.
Okay.
So we all need to realize, hold on, be an individual, but have personal boundaries that you can keep, that will enable your relationship to thrive, but not to die.
All right, let's take a short break. Then we'll come back rather with more of your calls and, of course, more of your WhatsApp messages. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Give us your name as well. Let us know whether your boundaries are there, and if they're there, if they're working. We'll be right back.